to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Edwards, if you would lead us in a prayer. Thank you.
Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for the opportunity to serve. Please be with us. Give us guidance. Give us experience and knowledge to help discuss these issues and do what's best in the residents for the Jesus name I pray.
All right, we have 7 members tonight, so we will all be voting tonight, everybody. Additions and deletions. I don't think there's any additions, are there, staff? No additions? Anything need to be deleted? Okay. All right. So we will approve the agenda. Do we need a motion on that? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Make a motion to approve.
Is there a second? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Okay. Approval of the meeting, minutes of the meeting of October 17th. Everyone should have a copy of those. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, and next item is a rezoning case, CZ-2023-001 McManus. This case has been continued to this meeting, so Mr. Hanson, if you could share.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Make a statement right
Okay,
quick.
go ahead, take next thing.
Before the meeting starts, I'd like to let everybody know that I have received a couple of emails on the county website, I think from Mr. Lathram, and I did not reply to them or anything about it, and I didn't mean no disrespect, but I choose not to discuss anything unless it's in the public forum. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Received that. I rescinded that email after I watched the video of the combination of the two boards and said, so the second email was basically to say, I understand why you're not replying.
Thank you. All right, go ahead, Mr. Hanson. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, sir. And so let me know how much of a refresher you need from last month, or we just go directly into public comment and the additional information from the applicants.
Anybody need to hear anything else from Bjorn at this point? I think at this point, we'll call you if we need you.
Okay, so I'll put it to the site plan, which will help the development team who's here, and they can talk about any additional information that was requested by them for tonight's discussion.
Okay. All right, I'll let them come first, since we asked them to bring back some information. I'm not sure who wants to lead that, but please state your name for the record so we remember you.
Andy Galick with True Homes.
Sir.
Good evening, Board. We brought with us the soil scientist that you guys had requested to speak about the septic systems.
Okay. All right, please state your name.
My name is Miranda Stamper.
Okay, and you are a soil scientist?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so I think the board had some questions about how this was gonna work with 138 lots and small lots and how these systems could function. Anybody? Is that, all right?
Let me just kind of,
Yeah, just kind of
Okay.
go over it if you will, and if there's
All right.
questions, they'll ask.
okay. Basically, the next step would be more soil evaluation on a per lot basis. We will look at the site conditions, including topography, soil conditions. We'll do that with pits. Once it's evaluated, we will, if there's enough space and conditions are right, we will tailor a system, both initial and repair areas for the septic based on those properties. And there's several different kinds of systems we can use, and they each have their specific requirements. And it's all based on the North Carolina rules and laws.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Yes.
What, I've heard in the past that if our environmental health department, which I have a lot of respect for, a lot of intelligence in that department, if they deny a permit, what procedures that you can be called, and I've heard that 99% of the time you can override their decision where you can get approval for a septic tank. I guess my question is, are y'all smarter than environmental health? Have you had more training than they've had? What gives you the authority to override their denial of where you can improve?
We definitely had, as a soil scientist, we've had more training. The biggest thing is we use a few more tools in our toolbox. We'll use systems that they're not used to using, like drip. But mostly, we still have to follow the same rules. We look at soils the same rules. Just sometimes we can find, a lot of times as private consultants, we have more time we can spend looking.
What is your success rate? If I were to go, I've got 15 acres of property, environmental health says, Mr. Davis, we can't approve any of that.
Right.
You come out and do your examining and so forth. What percentage of the ones that you pass have you had 100% success, or when you pass one, is it 100% successful with no problems down the road?
It should be, because I follow the same rules, yes. I mean, I don't always find something behind the county, but I do, I'd say if I had to guess, 75% of the time. But a lot of it is time, being able to spend on each acre and not just the one area. You know, like a lot of times you gotta put your house box there, and then generally the county will look around the house box and then that's it. Well, I'll come out and look everywhere.
Okay, so if the environmental health department turns the permit down because they say the soil's not acceptable, then you guys go in, y'all have a 100% success rate of possibly getting it approved?
Not 100%, no,
Okay.
no.
Okay, another question I have that's pretty important to me. True Homes is going to be building 138 homes on this property.
Mhm.
Okay, they will warranty their product for a year, from what I understand. Okay, 2 years down the road, Mr. Johnson buys a house, he has problems with his tank and it's not operating properly. Whose responsibility is that? The property owner? Is it you guys where you said, yes, this will work? Is it True Value's owner? I mean, it sounds to me like 2 years down the road, the homeowner's gonna get stuck with a bad system if it doesn't work. Am I correct in believing that?
I'm Kevin Miller. I'm Miranda's partner
Okay.
in the business. That's really a loaded question.
It needs to be answered, though.
Well, it's hard to answer that because there's a lot of factors in why septic systems fail. One of them is the homeowner. So it's hard to
Okay,
guarantee.
hold on. What would the homeowner be doing wrong to cause it to fail?
Pouring your grease down the sink.
Okay.
Overuse of water, so they've got a flapper leaking in their toilet that they just let, continually go on. That'll cause the system to fail.
Okay, let's say 2 years down the road, Mr. Johnson has problems with his. Environmental health comes out and says, Mr. Johnson, there's nothing we can do to help you. From what I understand, his only option is then to contract the company to come out on a regular basis and pump his tank out.
That's what the repair area is for. So if there's nothing that can be done for that system, so let's say that it is truly failed, there's nothing you can do to fix it, then that's where the repair area comes into play.
Okay, what would make the repair area better than the already existing area being used if it's adjoining side by side?
There's nothing that says that it's better than, it's just another area in case that system fails, that's where you go to put it.
So then if that system fails, you go to the second system. Same soil conditions, everything is ideal. 2 years down the road, that system fails. Then what do you do? Pumping?
Pumping hole.
Yeah, you're
Pumping
looking,
is the only option you have.
you're looking for either more land to find another, to put another system on.
That's our
which-
concern.
Which
with
here,
this.
there is available space to do that.
Okay.
But it would be an off-site system, which we understand is not an option for this,
But that was, it's not an option, so pumping would be the only other option to go to.
right? So how many people in here have septic systems?
No, I do.
How much trouble have you had with your septic system? Anybody? I'm sorry? None. Any of y'all?
County permitted them.
Doesn't matter who permitted it.
This is some,
But
I guess our main concern is not so much that you guys are inadequate in what you're doing, that 2 years down the road, Mr. Johnson buys a house, he's got an issue, you guys have already been called in. Apparently True Homes is anticipating there are problems there because they called you in instead of environmental health. So we're
That's
that's
concerned
not
about down the
necessarily
road.
true.
That's not true.
Okay, what's not true about it?
They're not calling us in because there's problems.
Okay. Why would they go to you
And matter of fact, we're not under contract with them to do
Oh, I understand.
this work.
But
You know
why
what I
would they
mean?
not just go to environmental health and go through the normal procedure like the average homeowner does?
I don't know, you wanna address that?
Yes, yeah. I mean, a lot of it has to do with time. To have environmental, we have a project, Conservancy at Waxhaw. We've been working with Union County Environmental for 8 months now on that project. These guys could come out within 2 weeks. That's a big difference for us.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then, I mean, once they get their results, it's months to get the results back. So, yeah, it's time.
How many samples have you taken from this area?
Roughly, we did a pit an acre. So I think there's 201 pits out there, is
Believe
that
so.
right?
Mhm.
And all of those are good?
No,
No, not all of them.
no, they're not.
Percentages good?
You got an idea of percentage, that's good.
I want to say 75%.
And I mean,
Of course, a lot of
essentially-
them's in floodplain areas, and topo plays a role. You know, we have to stay away from water. We don't want to be in flood areas, so we have to take all that into consideration.
And they designed the development around those pits, so the areas that are not suitable have things like roads on them. Like Miranda said, some of the poor soils are down in the floodplain. You can see they've got a very large buffer around all the Richardson Creek there. So those soils that are bad are primarily in those areas.
The pit that you're speaking of, what is, describe the pit you're talking about?
It's dug with an excavator, 2-foot bucket. We're required to go 4 feet deep if we can.
Now, these areas of 75% that you told Mr. Everett that it's not acceptable, does that mean that a house won't be built on that lot?
That's correct.
So you're saying out of the 138 or whatever they're proposing, could be 25% on the one part that they can't even use them?
Could be.
Could be.
Yeah, that's what she was saying, is there's more work that needs to be done. This is not, it's set in stone that there's gonna be a septic system on every one of those lots. That's just the reality of it. I mean, this is Union County.
That's what's concerning us.
Our soils are,
Yeah.
So if there's not a septic on that lot, then that lot's just not used. It's not, it's.
Andy would have to address what they're gonna do in
Yeah,
that
if you would,
situation.
say if you come in with that, if you have a lot that's not acceptable, will you pump it somewhere else or just not use that lot?
No, at the last meeting, we discussed 138 homes is what we're hoping to get. That's best case scenario. If we get a lot that doesn't work, that's 137. If we have 10 lots, 128.
What happens to those lots then?
I mean, they could end up being green space, they could end up being, a place for a dog park. We have no clue.
So who maintains those lots?
They would probably go to the HOA.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
So on those lots that, if the lot doesn't perk fix, you're not gonna use any additional system alternative system that we'll exhaust every method that we can get a septic system on that property. Once we run out of ways to do that, then, yeah, we're gonna ixnay that lot. Do the different kinds of, maybe for the scientists
No, it's mostly space. Different systems require different space. They require different depths of usable soil. But they're all accepted systems in North Carolina, and like I say, they're included in the rules of on-site wastewater disposal.
Just a curiosity. So if you go out and environmental health rejects a permit that's been applied for, what is the normal cost by the time you guys get through with your recommendation? Is that something you can disclose? Or?
Yeah.
I mean, so the average septic tank might be $4,000, $5,000.
Yeah.
And you guys have to come in. What is the average cost when you guys get through?
Yeah, and a system's more than that.
Right.
Yeah.
A normal 3-bedroom system, 25% reduction chamber, gravity system, you're probably looking at about 8,000.
Okay.
As well, you know, the county fees are roughly about $350 to come out and perk a site. We're in the neighborhood of 4 times that to do the field work.
So when you saying a septic tank is $8,000, 4 times that's 32,000.
No, sir,
No.
no, sir, the county.
The
$350.
soil work
Yes.
is,
Okay.
yeah.
Yes, sir. So 1,200, you know, in that
Just out of
ballpark.
curiosity, what is the average system that you guys approve that has been denied? What does it roughly go for? You have an idea?
We actually get more conventional type systems on, it's not always the high-end system or the, more expensive system. It's not, I start with most economical and best, you always want to keep your client in mind.
Space is usually our
Space and
biggest
depth.
issue.
The reason I'm asking that question is the repair field. So
Mhm.
if you have a system that's, you guys have recommended is $20,000, then a homeowner has to go back 2 years from now and go to the repair field. They have to use that same system in the repair field beside it.
No, sir. They don't have to use the same system. Is that, you're referring to the type of system?
Yeah.
No, sir. And generally, that's not the case. Generally, the initial area will be one type of system and the repair area will be another type of system. Commonly, I think in Union County, you can say that the repair system oftentimes is drip. Because the good space that we find is usually, limited. So you end up with a drip repair, which is, they're not bad systems. I mean, they're actually great. They work very well for what they're designed for. They're just expensive. And we would certainly like to hope that they would last more than 2 years.
I'm just used to Union County soil and all.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
The complaints that you hear about the soil quality.
Yep.
And one of my main concerns is the homeowner 5 years down the road.
Right.
What they're gonna run into. They're gonna
Yeah.
buy a house and not know anything about it, then they jump into that's, and I'm not
Yeah.
trying to be
Yeah.
asinine
No.
in any way
And-
whatsoever. I
And
just
North
have some
Carolina's a
questions.
buyer beware state, so you should have a good real estate agent.
Yes, sir.
But I think the rules that we have in place protect that. That's what they're designed for. There are certain types of soil you just can't use. And so and there's certain depths you have to have. And that's all built into a successful system. So that's why the rules are very important.
Okay, you just made a statement too, you said that you don't necessarily have to use the same type of system,
Yes, sir.
but if you had to use that first system to start with, and you could use the drip system the second to repair field, why couldn't you just use it to start with?
It's a cost thing.
I mean, you can if
Yeah,
you want
yeah,
to, if you
yeah.
want to spend that on a drip to start with.
Yeah.
But we usually do the most economical.
Yeah, your average 3-bedroom drip system is gonna be in the $30,000 price
That's
tag.
where I'm coming from for a homeowner 5 years down the road if they have a problem with it.
Yeah. And I mean, I've not asked the county, but I'm sure y'all could, what is their failure rate for the county? I'm sure they know, because I'm sure they get phone calls about that. They would probably be able to provide you that.
They're here, so we're gonna ask
Yeah,
them.
yeah. I'm sure they know.
I'm good.
Anything else down there?
To go back to my question, the percentage that was good.
Yes, sir.
What is that percentage? Is it conventional or just any type of system?
It's gonna be
It's gonna be a
site-specific.
conventional type system for the most part, and what I mean by that, it's a trench system. So it's gonna be like what we call 25% reduction chambers, which I don't know if you've seen them, it's kind of the half dome polyethylene, looks like a piece of corrugated pipe. There's another version of that called a low profile chamber, that we use when we have shallow soil depths and we can't fit that big chamber in. And then after that, there's another kind of more advanced system that's called a panel block system. It kind of looks like cinder blocks, and it sort of is cinder blocks. But those are about the three main types of trench systems that we would employ. And then after that, it's drip, and there's two basic types of that. You have anaerobic drip, which is basically just using effluent straight out of the septic tank. And then you have pre-treat, which is basically like a residential wastewater treatment plant. And those get very expensive.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
There was some concern because of the proximity around Richardson Creek and all. I think more the concern might have been that when the sewer sort of seeped into the ground,
Mhm.
that it could get to the creek area. But, can you explain why that
Sure.
wouldn't be a problem?
Sure. The rules state that you have to have a minimum of 12 inches of soil to treat the septic. There's been tons of studies done. North Carolina State University's done studies. And what they're doing is reducing the bad bugs. Pathogens in the soil.
Viruses and bacteria.
So the effluent's getting treated in that 12 inches, so it's 12 inches that way, 12 inches that way. So what they're saying is after it passes through 12 inches of soil, that it's no longer harmful.
But we still have to stay minimum of 50 feet
Mhm.
away from water. And then there's rules to stay away from drains, there's cuts, anything like that that might lead to a water source. And there's setbacks for all that we have to abide by.
Anything else?
So, what do you do to ensure, let's just suppose your your backyard where your system is on a downhill slope toward the creek? Is there anything you do to ensure that if it surfaced, that there's some kind of buffer there to keep it from getting to that creek?
Yeah, there's a distance buffer. I mean, we can't put any component of the septic closer than 50 feet. And I think in this project, there's 100-foot buffers. So they've actually doubled the buffer.
Okay, so it is 100.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, for this project. Mhm.
Anything else? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We've had some folks sign up to speak, and so we will call you up. We've heard from a lot of you already, so hopefully you'll keep it short. We do have a 3-minute time limit for public input, so we will start with Linda Tarleton. I believe that's correct. Linda Tarleton, are you here, and are you going?
That would
There
be
you
me.
are, okay. Thank you, ma'am.
I've got a treat for you guys first. They're not endangered species, but I took a picture of this baby owl that fell out of a tree on June the 9th. There's a nest on the property line, and they've raised babies there. But it's special to me, and I hope it will mean something to you guys too. God's creatures. I want to tell you about the Lathan land, the property, Darren's property, our property, on down the road where Amy is, where Sybil Biggers is. That was all property in the Lathan family. 150 years that land has been in our Lathan family. So that's why it's sentimental. The land that joins mine is the Purser property that's in question now to be rezoned. That was also Lathan property. The Pursers bought it for investment property. But it's sentimental to all of us on the road. And McManus Road just needs to stay rural. It's just a little rural farming community. We don't have a lot of commercial traffic through there. It's mostly a cut-through for farmers and for us. When Aw Shucks has overflow, they come through there. When they have weddings and festivities at Aw Shucks or 13 Acres in October, it comes through there. And when they had the roundabout built at Rough Edge, the traffic was diverted through our road. It was chaos. But I know they said the DOT had done a study of the traffic and that our road, McManus Road, Latham Road, could accommodate that traffic. And I was here the last time and I urged each one of you to please travel on Latham Road and McManus Road and see if you agree with the DOT. There's knee-deep potholes on Latham Road now. And they took the budget from the roundabout. Instead of working on Latham Road, they built the roundabout. So that's the deal. The county water is going to run across all of our properties. My mom was informed. None of us knew about it. Somebody went and told my 93-year-old mother that they were going to dig up her driveway and her mailbox, and she went ballistic. I really didn't appreciate that. All of us should have been informed at the same time. I think that would have been ethical. But that's just my opinion for what it's worth. The school traffic, the existing residents, the farm traffic with the heavy farm equipment and everything, we're not equipped, and just the people that live on that road, we're not equipped to have 150 or 200 more cars coming through there. We're just not equipped for it, so.
Well, thank you. I'm sorry, that's your 3 minutes.
Okay,
Thank you, ma'am.
thank you for looking at my picture.
Thank you for showing us. Now, I think Sam Starnes, is that correct? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman and members of the Land Use Board, appreciate your time. I am Sam Starnes, and along with my two sons, Chad and Travis, are owners of Circle S Ranch. We have land that adjoins this proposed property of the 138 homes development. We are farmers. We grow corn, wheat, and soybeans. So along with our row crop farming and poultry farming, that's how we make a living. This is a very rural community, and we respect our neighbors, and they respect us. They understand farming and what it's all about and what comes along with it, from the tractors and the combines and heavy equipment, farming equipment, the dust and the smells that come along with it. A bullet point back to homes in the Prospect Elementary attendance zone, which covers the Parkwood Middle and the high school attendance area. Prospect Elementary is at full capacity. It is the school of choice because of its achievement levels and because of the teachers and students. Prospect Elementary is an old school, 80-plus years. My mother and father went to school there. I went to school there, and my sons went to school there, and then my grandkids went there. This school sits in the land space where the school is very tight. A new elementary school estimated would cost 40 to 50 million for the land and buildings. I think on a conservative estimate, 138 homes could be over 200 students, at least. I still, I heard some things tonight, but I still say if the developer was building 138 homes on 138 acres, they could do that by right of the current zoning. Union County is behind on its infrastructure development. Union County Public Works, from what I have been told, has had to take over the majority of the private packaged sewer plants that have been established. Some of that is referring back to your questions, I think. and who's there later on. So I'm saying the county has already experienced taking over these private plants that have been established. In what I understand, the majority of them that's in Union County to date has gone back, and it's the responsibility of the county now.
All right, your 3 minutes is up, sir. I appreciate your comments. Thank you for taking time to come out.
Thank you.
All right, Maxine, is it Maxine McCrory?
Maxine McGrory.
Maxine McCrory. Are you here? She didn't. You didn't sign up. Your name's on here, so you don't want to talk, do you? Okay. Speak now or forever hold your peace. David McRory? You shoot the same thing? Oh, y'all just signed to say you were here. That's your attendance sheet? Oh. How about, is it David McRory? Oh, I'm sorry, there's another one. Is it that?
That next one too.
All right then, well, we're just gonna move right along here.
Maxine led y'all along.
How about Monty Ray? Did Monty just sign up for fun of? You are present?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. All right, we're gonna go down this list. Paula Sanders, are you here? You are present? Oh, you gonna talk? Thank you.
I am Paula Sanders, and,
All right.
I understand the position of the pursers. I have recently inherited my farm when my family passed away recently. But after being on this farm for over 100 years, I can't develop my farm. So I've come back to really continue the legacy on the farm and make homes for my children there so that we can continue to live there as well. I did send a letter to you guys all stating some of my concerns. My concerns, again, the school. I don't think Parkwood is ready for 7 buses of kids to come and be dropped off. I don't think that we have the resources. I think the teachers would struggle. My sister's a teacher in that system, and I know that it's tight. Regarding the traffic, we've had deaths on Griffith Road there at McManus Road and at the Rocky River location where people would be dumping out at, coming out of this neighborhood. So yes, we do not have the infrastructure in place, and I don't know when DOT would be able to catch up with it. How many wrecks, how many deaths are gonna come as a result of putting so many people into a combined area that we're just not ready to support? So I would just ask that we're not against development. We have developments going up all around us. They're building homes on Griffith Road, on Plyler Mill Road. So we're not against development. We want good, sustainable development. We want to continue the legacy of this community. We all know each other. We grew up together. We went to school together. My dad worked for Sammy Starnes. So we want to continue to operate as we have over the last 100 years in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Darren Lathan, are you here?
Yes,
You want to speak?
I do.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Rural residential is defined as, quote, "those parts of the county expected and intended to retain an agricultural or low-density residential pattern." Low density means a lot size of no more than 1 unit per acre. This may sound familiar because it's from the Union County 2050 Comprehensive Plan. It also states one of the main goals is, quote, "preserved rural character outside of water and sewer coverage areas." Outside of water and sewer coverage areas. We believe the proposal is the proverbial square peg in a round hole. This housing project is being forced to fit in a rural farming community and requires rezoning just to meet the minimum requirements. This is based on 5 key points. 1, there's no county water for 138 home development. To get water to the property, they will need to run 2 additional miles of water line from 2 different directions to meet the county requirements for pressure. The county will actually have more water line to maintain due to the 2 miles being added. This added distance negates the clustering concept and does not save the county money as it was intended. 2, there's no county sewer for 138 home development. The proposal is for 138 septic systems on half-acre lots with only 20 feet in between each house. You can see it right there. The property is divided by 2 stream beds and bordered by the headwaters of Richardson Creek. Approximately 85 of the 138 lots back up to either the stream beds or to Richardson Creek. 85 septic systems next to wetland and flood areas with no inspection or approval from Union County Environmental Health. Square peg, round hole. 3, RA 40 changing to R15. So why the need to rezone rural farmland? This is to take advantage of the R15 clustering in order to pack more homes on the property's available perk sites. The intent of clustering was not to circumvent the zoning requirements. This is simple. Leave the land zoned R40. 4, the project is inconsistent with the rural character of the surrounding area. The true vernacular of rural residential are homes that are spread out on larger lots. What's proposed here tonight will look and feel like townhomes stacked up like dominoes with a few green spaces sprinkled in between. Clustering may be needed in areas like Weddington and Waxhaw, but not here in rural Union County. And finally, our tax base is over 90% residential in Union County. Instead of sacrificing more farmland on the altar of residential sprawl, the leaders of Union County need to focus on the agricultural and business side of growth, not more residential. Thank you for allowing us to be heard.
Thank you, sir. We have Bill Massey. Are you here and do you want to speak?
Yes, sir.
Present and talking. All right, sir.
Thank you. I don't have anything formal prepared, just want to echo and ditto everything that everyone said here. This does not fit the rural character out there. The roads are too small, just too tiny to support this in the middle of nowhere. So really just want to get on the record and express my disgust with this, and please don't approve it, and please don't send it to the board. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that was the last person to sign up to speak. At this time, board, would you like to hear from anybody else? That's,
Yes, I'd like to hear from Mr. Dave, either Dave or Tracy, one or the other. Whichever one of y'all feel comfortable.
they both coming.
Okay, good.
I'm just here for support.
Okay.
Please state your name.
My name's David Finley. I'm the supervisor for the on-site water protection program for Union County Environmental Health.
Mr. Finley, could you explain the process that the soil scientists go through as far as getting permits? What part your department plays working with them as far as inspection, dealing with them, and how y'all interact with each other?
So there's different pathways that we deal with licensed soil scientists and consultants in the industry. Obviously, we do permitting, and I'll just give an example. So right now, I think Stamper has done a preliminary evaluation for the property. So sometimes what will happen there is we'll deal with property owners where they may have had a preliminary soil evaluation at this point, which I believe they've done that for this property. And then we'll have property owners that will use that information to maybe come up with lot configurations. And then they would come to our office and submit an application, and then we would come out and actually do the individual site and soil evaluations for the proposed lots. So that's one avenue. The other kind of the spectrum of that is, I think that's the direction that we're talking about here is engineered option, you know. So.
Okay, let me ask you one question. We just said, so when they come in and place an application, do you go out, does your team go out and do inspections on the property, or do you kind of stay away and let the soil scientists do it?
Well, it depends. So there's 2 private permitting options. And so one is called an engineered option permit. The other one is called an authorized on-site wastewater evaluator permit. Both of those are private permits. There's no involvement with our office other than they submit what's called a notice of intent to construct with our office. We do not review the documents. It's more of, and this is all dictated by legislation. This is not some policy program within Union County, within environmental health. This is actually North Carolina legislation. But we are merely processing the paperwork, and we forward documents back to them. Basically, it's a public-facing document that we produce that says you have properly processed the permit with our office, and we're acknowledging that that's been done. It's a document that they can then use to take to building code enforcement of whatever building code authority that they're dealing with to get the necessary building permits. Okay, so we deal with permitting from our end, where they're more consultants, but they also have the ability through legislation to do basically private permitting.
Okay, so what you're saying is then, all your department is a permitting department. All you do is give them, they come in, apply for it, you give them a permit, and you're out of it.
So technically, they are issuing the permit.
But you're just,
We are just processing that information, yep.
okay, so you don't have any, go out and do any inspection, that's all done through the soil scientist. So you're really, once they present the permit to you and you process the permit, you're out of it, is that correct?
Yes, from an official perspective. Now, I will say, so general statute gives us the authority in general statute 336.1, 130A, it allows under the inspections, when it's referring to these private permits, it gives the local health department or environmental health the authority to be able to go make observations. We can make observations. Sometimes they'll even request a post-construction meeting, but they're not required to have that with us. And our authority basically is that we can go and we can make an observation of the installation. As part of that, we can, strictly from an observation standpoint, and I'll just give an example. We go out, we've seen where the system was installed. I've got an adjacent property next door, and I see that there's a well that's 18 feet away from something that was installed, a septic tank, a septic drain field. Now, I would have the authority at that point, and really obligation, because I've seen it, to go to the permitting agent, which would be either the engineer or the licensed soil scientist, and make them aware of it. That's all I can do at that point.
All you can do is make them aware of it, but you can't require them to correct the situation.
I can't make them require it, so what would happen is this. At the end of the day, once everything's complete, the licensed soil scientist or the engineer, depending on which type of private permit it is, they have to issue what's called an authorization to operate, ATO. That is what, it's similar to the operations permit that we issue, but it's a private document that says that system can now be operated. And it allows the local building code enforcement to issue the CO. So in that situation, with 18 feet away from the system, my conversation would be to that engineer or licensed soil scientist is, are you wanting to continue with your ATO? Or do you want to address this concern, this issue? Because then they'll be given the opportunity to address that. And that is if we know about it, okay? That's the thing. So let's just, if they say that, no, we want to go ahead and issue the ATO, I don't have the ability to deny that. And what would happen is that would be issued, and then at that point, I would be issuing a notice of violation to the property owner.
To the individual house owner or the True Farms property owner?
Well, whoever is in control of the property. And the notice of violation would go to them. It would not go to the permitting agent.
would that keep them from getting a CO on the property?
No, but when we issue a notice of violation, it puts them on a time clock. If they do not resolve the issue within 30 days, then we will escalate it through legal.
But really, you don't have any authority to do any inspection, do anything. All you are is just a permitting agent so they come apply for the permit and you issue the permit.
We are processing the permit that they've issued.
Yes, okay.
Yep.
Now, we would have some involvement based on the type of system. If it was required, like they mentioned, the drip irrigation systems, those systems are type 5 systems. They require ongoing maintenance. They require a contract with a certified operator. So environmental health does have oversight over the operation and maintenance of that system.
Okay, if they have a contract on, do you guys, is it like a yearly contract, you go out and inspect and make sure that the procedures, preventive maintenance is being done on it?
That's right. We have inspection requirements, but we also make sure that the certified operator is performing their inspections and that the property owner has a valid contract.
Okay, and then if there is an issue with it, it goes back to the property owner again?
Yes, sir.
The person owning the house.
That's right.
That's what I thought.
Any other questions for these folks? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. I do respect your intelligence and I have a lot of respect for your department.
All right, thank you, appreciate it.
Okay. All right, folks, we need any more discussion? I would like to ask Mr. Bjorn a question, if you could come up. Bjorn, you were keenly involved in the 2050 plan,
Yes, sir.
and this property was designated what? I don't remember.
Rural residential. I'll pull
Rural
up the land
residential.
use map.
Yeah, okay, thank you for bringing that back up.
Yep.
'Cause I know some of us on this board were a part of the 2050 plan, and maintaining the rural character of the county was a priority
It was.
for us, as a group. We made it very important that certain things probably should not be, yeah, okay. Am I right, sir? You were on there. You were actually on the one that handled most of this.
Well, this piece of property, under the current zoning of R40, correct?
It's RA 40.
Okay, RA40.
Let me make sure I'm saying that
So
correctly.
there's nothing stopping
Yep, RA40.
them to go in there and build houses on a 1 acre lot.
That's correct.
So if this is not rezoned, it's not limiting their ability to use their property. All it's doing, if by zoning it, they're able to put more houses in a smaller area that fits, correct?
I don't know whether it's more or not. I haven't seen a yield calculation
Well, I
for
mean,
the
the
by
bottom
right
line is
zoning.
there's houses on there on half-acre lots, so that's
Sure.
more than would go on a 1 acre lot.
They also have more than 50% of the land undisturbed.
Okay. All right, so I mean, bottom line, if it don't get rezoned, we're not restricting anybody's rights of doing anything. They can still use the property at the current zoning.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bjorn. I just want to clarify that. I remember that was a big thing we talked about, when we went through the 2050 plan, and there were certain areas of the county that we felt like did not need to have growth like this, and I think this was one of them, so. I thank you, sir. Anything else from Bjorn or anybody? All right. So, at this time, hearing all this, we will I will call for a motion.
I make a motion, we deny the rezoning petition CZ 2023-001 submitted by True Homes to rezone the property, appearing on the tax map as parcel 042555004 in Beaufort Township from RA 40 to R 15 with conditions and adopt the consistency and reasonableness statement for denial.
I have a motion. Is there a second? Second, Mr. Balcom? Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you, folks. I will tell you that this is not the end of the road. This goes to the county commissioner. We're just we're advisory. We tell them what we heard, what we feel, what we saw. Y'all get a date to go before them in the same room. And they're not as friendly as we are.
Mr. Chairman, if I
They're
may,
fine folks. They'll do a great job too. Yes.
for the benefit of everyone who came here tonight for the meeting, you may tomorrow, we put it in the mail just in the last few days, or maybe it's already been received, give you the notice of the December 4th public hearing, which is the next step in the process. So that will be before the Board of Commissioners, the exact same room, 6 PM, same time, where there will be a public hearing. Again, you can come and speak, exactly the same format as what Mr. Green and the Planning Board, Land Use Board just conducted. And that meeting is, the only thing on the agenda is the hearing. There isn't necessarily an action scheduled for that evening. That action would be 2 weeks later, which would be the 18th of December. So when you get that letter and you're like, why am I getting another letter? It's because that's the next step in the process. Is that this is the Land Use Board. They've made their decision or made their recommendation. It will automatically still go to the Board of Commissioners, and that will occur the first Monday in December.
Thank you. Are you gonna take a 5-minute break? We'll take a 5-minute break. If y'all are free to go, or if y'all wanna stay and let us talk about text amendment, y'all are welcome to, all of you, but you might wanna go home and get ready for Thanksgiving. Thank you all for coming.
Thanks for coming out. Yeah, you guys too.
We are still live, so.
Some kind of bummer. A tree in my yard, you can come get
If y'all don't mind, you're welcome to continue talking, step outside that way. We want to go too. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
All right, I'm good.
We're gonna continue now with item two, which is a text amendment, section 3.0, accessory dwelling unit. Oh, I think Mr. Jensen's gonna talk to us about this.
So, a little bit of background on this, and besides the background you see on your screen. The current ADU section in the ordinance, I believe, was adopted as part of the 2014 complete rewrite of the development ordinance. Went through a couple cycles. Accessory dwelling units were not necessarily a huge topic during that rewrite, but it came up. And we put some language in there to deal with it. Went through a couple of tweaks, but Board of County Commissioners approved it. Pretty straightforward. Not a lot of discussion on that topic. There was lots of discussion on other stuff, but not necessarily that one. The current language, it only allows abbreviated ADUs, accessory dwelling units, in zoning districts that allow 2-unit houses by right. So 2-unit house is like a duplex. So you got one structure that has two residences in it. Is everybody familiar with the concept of what an accessory dwelling unit is? Okay, all right, just making. Okay, sure. So it's like if you have got your house on you got a 5-acre lot, you got your house, and you want to build a second dwelling on your house it could be for anybody. I mean, I'll be honest with you, the two primary reasons that we get are what you call a granny flat. So you got an aging parent or grandparent that you want to build a house for them, or a kid. So you got your kid, maybe they just finished high school or just got out of college and they want to come back. And we all know housing's expensive in Union County, so a lot of kids can't afford it. So we're having a lot of parents that are building a smaller house for their kid on their property. Now, it doesn't mean that somebody couldn't build one and rent it to anybody. I mean, you can do that too. You can't, discriminate based on who owns it. But those are the two primary reasons that people come into our office to get a permit to build one of these things.
Can that be done on a typical R40 lot?
Yeah.
On a typical acre lot?
No. So I'm going to go through. I'm going to go through how those regulations work as part of this. So 2-unit houses, your duplexes, they're allowed in all residential zoning districts by right, except in 2, R40 and R10. In those districts, it requires a special use permit. So if you want to build a duplex in an R40 or R10, you've got to come to the Land Use Board and go through a quasi-judicial process to get a special use permit. An interesting little nuance here is, for a long time, I'll be honest with you, we were permitting ADUs I'm bleeding up here, I don't know why, but we were permitting ADUs in R40 and R15. What the ordinance says is where 2-unit houses are allowed by right, you can have them. So we were actually, and I don't know that we've issued that many permits, but there were a couple permits that we probably issued in R40. But the way it reads, one of our staff members pointed it out, and we said, well, you're right. So they can't even come, because it's where it's allowed by right, you can do them. It doesn't give them the option to even come and get a special use permit for ADUs. So we sort of talked about it at a staff level, and we said, well, probably 95% of the county, you can do it by right, because you can do it in RA40, and I've got a little chart here that's going to show that. So we said, well, why don't we just go ahead and include it in R40 and R15 as well. It's allowed everywhere else by right. Let's just include it in those two districts. So that's essentially what this text amendment is. So that's kind of the background of how these sections work. Again, the proposed change, all ADUs would be allowed by right in all zoning districts. And then another one here would be, it would no longer require, this is getting at your question, would no longer require 150% of the minimum lot size requirement. Essentially just has to meet the minimum lot size requirement for that zoning district. So the way it works now, let's say you have an RA40 lot, you can do it by right, but you got to have 60,000 square feet. So you can't do it on a 40,000 square foot lot. Got to have 60,000. Now, I actually want to jump up here because I want to show you, this is a text change, but I kind of want to go through the way these things are permitted because I know a couple of members had some questions about how they're currently permitted today. So you can do it, you can create these in a number of ways, and that's under this methods of creation. So you can take an existing living area within the house and convert it into a second living quarters. You can add another floor to an existing dwelling unit. Believe it or not, we've had somebody do that. This is the most common, which is number 3. You can construct a detached accessory dwelling unit on a lot with an existing house. Now, the key thing there is, and there's 2 things I want to point out. One is written here. It says that accessory dwelling unit has to be built to North Carolina Building Code. So it can't be a mobile home. It can't be a park model RV. It can't be a non-park model RV. It's got to be a site-built house that meets North Carolina Building Code. You're going to come to the building inspections office. You're going to get a building permit. They're going to go out and inspect it. The other thing is, it's got to be evaluated by environmental health. So they got to go out and they got to look at it to make sure that either the septic system that's on site is adequate to support the existing house and the new accessory dwelling unit, or that they're putting in a new drain field and septic tank to accommodate this new ADU. So it's got to meet those 2 standards. Again, general standards has got to be, subject to all applicable zoning regulations, so setbacks, height, all that kind of stuff. And you can only have 1. So if you got 5 acres and you build 1, that's it. You're not getting any more. And it can only be half the size of the primary house. So if you've got a 2,000 square foot house, your accessory dwelling unit is going to max out at 1,000 square feet. And also, since it's an accessory use, it's got to be insubstantial to the primary structure. So you're not going to build one that's taller or sits out in front of it. It's got to be, sort of beside it or in the backyard. So it's going to look like it's not going to be the primary thing you see. The primary thing you'll see is the house, and then there's going to be maybe an ADU out beside of it or behind it. So now I'll jump back. A couple things this won't do. HOAs, if this is passed, HOAs can still regulate whatever they want to. We're not saying HOAs can't restrict it. So if there's subdivision and they don't want people to have these, that's fine. They still got to get a building and zoning permit because, again, zoning, we've got to check to make sure that it meets that size requirement. Kind of what we do is we pull up the tax records, look at the square footage of the house that's on the property. We ensure that the size they're telling us that they're permitting is half the size of that house. Again, building code's double checking to make sure that it meets North Carolina building code. And we're also making sure if it's on septic and well, that Tracy and David and their team are going out and making sure that that's all, fine as well. So this is just to break down proposed change. You've really got, I said two, it's really three districts that impacts RA 200, R40, and R10. It's not allowed there today. It would be allowed under the current change. And all the other districts, RA 40, which is like 85% of the zoning districts in the county, it's already allowed there by right. RA 200 is allowed there by right. Those two districts make up probably about 93% of Union County. So it's already allowed in about 92%. So, adding R40 is going to bring it up to probably about 98. Again, that's the text change. You can see accessory dwelling units, again, that green underline, allowed in all residential districts. We would take out the part about allowing 2-unit houses. And then the density, instead of the 60,000 square feet, it would essentially have, it would be whatever that zoning district minimum is. So if you're in a R40 and you've got 40,000 square feet and Tracy looks at it and says it'll work, then you can build an ADU. That's essentially the two changes that we were proposing. Kind of the rationale, provides for flexibility for landowners. If they've got an aging parent or if they've got a kid that's trying to stay in Union County, and maybe they can't afford a house quite yet, want to save some money, kind of eliminate some of those arbitrary differences between those zoning districts. And it would increase if somebody wants to build one to rent it out, they could do that. So that could increase some affordable housing options in the county. Now, again, it's still owned by the property owner. So, Mr. Davis, if you built one on your property and Darren wants to live there, Darren can live there and pay you rent, but you can't sell it to him.
Okay, does this affect the special use permits that we can offer to parents to move in a mobile home or something?
It will not, no.
That's still available?
That's still available. So if somebody wants to use a mobile home to put an elderly parent, a temporary dependent care residence, they still have the option to come to the land use board in a quasi judicial meeting to get a special use permit for that. Or if they want to build them an ADU, then they have that. So this gives them another option. Yeah. We have had quite a bit of those. I would say, and Janet, you've probably seen more than I have. It's probably elderly parents and then kids. That's probably, and what? And pool houses. A lot of people will take a pool house and they'll want to put a bedroom in there to have, like, if they have an overnight guest to come and stay, then they can do that. Yeah, thank you.
Are these all going to be safe for manufactured housing?
I'm sorry?
The main house is a manufactured house, then they can still put ADU?
Still be site built though.
Still be site
Yep.
built?
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's the end of my slideshow.
So Clancy can build him one of them tiny houses on his property for vacations. If he wants to get out of the house, he can go down. Yeah.
That's right.
A doghouse.
I think a man cave and she shed.
Man cave.
Yeah, those are I think those are the terms. So yeah, folks do that too. They'll come in and, well, I think we have had a couple, Janet, correct me if I'm wrong, but they come in and they just want to build it for, like, just a place to go hang out. Yeah. Yeah, we have had that. We have had that. A she shed, that's right. That's right. That's right. But because it is it's an accessory use. So we have, this is a subsection of the accessory use section of the ordinance. So any accessory use, whether it's a storage building or an ADU or anything like that, you have your primary structure, which is generally going to be your house. That has to be the primary thing you see. Like if you're driving down the road, that's what you're going to see is the house. So because it's an accessory structure, you limit the size so it's not the primary thing that takes up the space on the property. And I will tell you, we have had folks that have come in and you know, they might have a small house on the property. They have a 1,000 square foot house. It's an old house, maybe it was built in 1920 or something. And what you can do in this situation is you can double.
Bigger,
Yeah, you can build a bigger house. So you could take the existing house, say it's got to be built in North Carolina Building Code. Take the existing house, 1,000 square feet, you build a 2,000 square foot house, that becomes your primary, and then you convert the existing one to your accessory dwelling unit. But you got to be careful about how you do it. But you can do that. You can do it that way.
Does this also count if somebody's adding space on, so they can only add on half
Yep.
the amount of the original square footage?
Yes, sir.
Adding on to the house.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, that one is a little difficult to regulate, just because if you're having an interior renovation, people will come in and get a permit, and, you know, they say, well, I'm gonna build this section on my house. And I've seen it 1,000 times. Back when I was a zoning administrator, I would go out to a house or a storage building or whatever, and I would look at this stuff and I'd say, man, this really looks like it's gonna be a second house. But it's not. I mean, they filled out the plans, and, you know, they'll have a bathroom and a big old room that's, you know, looks like a bedroom, but, you know, doesn't have a closet in it, and they've got it labeled like, you know, living room or, you know, bonus room or whatever. And then you see another room that's like, oh, this looks like it's gonna be set up as a kitchen, but, you know, maybe they don't have a refrigerator in it, they don't have an oven in it or something like that. So the ones that are inside homes are a little bit tough for us to regulate, but technically it applies to them.
I know a young man building basically a carport with the roof over the top, a living quarters
Uh-huh.
on top.
Yeah.
Young man, single, all these, with the plan to build his
Yeah.
forever home onto it. That's still permitted, right? The forever home may be twice as large.
Yeah. We have people do that all the time.
This
Oh, yeah.
doesn't change that.
The only thing it would affect is if that space above the garage is a dwelling, then the new house would have to be double the size of that.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, normally when people come in, because we get people that time to time ask that question. It's more often than you would think. And we tell them, that's part of what we tell them. It's like, look, if this is what you're doing, because we know eventually they're going to build a new house. They're going to build a bigger house. They're trying to save money. And we tell them that. Whenever you build this new house, just keep in mind, it's got to be twice the size of this. And most of them, they're fine. Because those garage apartments they're not huge anyway. They're on the order of 1,000 to 1,200 square feet, so.
Any other questions, folks?
What about the people that might abuse the system? Let's say a developer comes in, wants to get something rezoned, and it doesn't pass, so they come up with a new plan to put a house, a secondary house on it.
Well,
It's on both as a unit.
Key there is it's on one lot. So they can't split that lot. So you've got your primary house and you've got your ADU, and it's all one ownership. So
Right,
you
but
can't,
What if they sell that business plan or that proposal as having 2 units, double the cost, but yet you can rent one out? How do we police the people that may abuse the system?
well, today, you know, in RA 40 and all those districts that are checked here, not X'd, but the ones that are checked, you can do that today. So we don't regulate who goes in that house. So because you don't really regulate the ownership or the, you know, who lives in the house, you regulate the use. Because honestly, if you build a house you go build an ADU, you've got an aging parent. Well, I mean, everybody's gonna pass away at some point. And so that person passes away, well, if you don't have a kid that wants to move in there, so now you got a structure that, what are you gonna do with it? You can turn it into a pool house maybe, or you can turn it into a storage building, or maybe you can make some passive income and rent it to somebody. But, I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but if that house is in my backyard, they're gonna live by my rules.
All right, so looks to me like mainly what we're doing here is just cleaning up the ordinance to
Yeah,
fix that 2 or 3, 4, 5% that's not already included.
Yeah, honestly, we kind of went back and looked, and it's hard to, I was here when the original 2014 UDO was written. I think I was here.
You were a
when
young fella back then.
I was a young fella back then. I think this was an unintended consequence.
Yeah.
There is a push at the state level. There's been legislation introduced by some of the members in the House and Senate to really allow ADUs everywhere. We already had this in our ordinance, so that legislation didn't really impact us, but it's been around for a while, so it's something it is kind of catching traction at a state and even national level. And mostly it does. It has to do really with housing affordability for either elderly folks or young folks that they're trying to stay in place, that don't want to, they don't want to move out to, the Union County folks, they don't want to move to Anson County just because that's the only place they can afford to buy a home.
Right. Any other discussion? All right, if I have a motion, please.
Make a motion.
Okay.
Make a motion to adopt the orders approving text amendments to the Unified Development Orders for Union County, North Carolina, and to adopt the consistency and reasonableness statement for approval.
That's the motion. Is there a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? I think that's it, right, sir?
We have one more. I think there's a calendar.
Oh, yes.
Under planning staff report.
Meeting schedule. Yes.
And I think those are in your agenda packet.
Under miscellaneous.
Do we have to approve that, or is that just it?
You need to approve it.
Okay, then.
Just look at those dates, because I think, Amy, January, yeah.
Martin Luther King, yeah.
So the Board of County Commissioners changes their meeting date, so then we'll have to change ours.
So just check that date, make sure y'all are okay on y'all's calendars to come to that.
I don't know what I'm doing next week, let alone what I'm doing in July, so I'm about to tell you right now. but
Understand that.
That's why we got a good steed right here if I'm not here.
Hey, can we take this out and keep
Yes,
it?
yeah, I was gonna tell you. Take that whole sheet home.
All right, so there a motion to approve these dates?
I'll make a motion to approve them.
Is there a second? Okay, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, that's it. That all we got?
Yes, sir.
Well, everyone have a very happy Thanksgiving. Do we have a meeting in December, you think?
Do we have to have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Yeah, I know that. I'm just trying not to.
Good.
All right, well, if we do, Mark's gonna cook for us, so.
Yeah, turkey.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Wait, what's Mark gonna cook?
Turkey?
Turkey?
It won't be turkey. You should talk to Sammy Starnes while he was here.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn? Second? Nope. Who first it? Who made it?
Okay.
Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye, opposed? Have a good night. We're out of here.